Welcome to the Business Credit and Financing Show. Each week, we talk about the growth strategies that matter most to entrepreneurs. Listen in as we discuss the secrets to getting credit and money to start and grow your business. And enjoy as we talk with seasoned business owners, coaches, and industry leaders on a variety of topics from advertising and marketing to the nuts and bolts of running a highly successful business. And now, to introduce the host of our show, financial expert and award-winning author, Ty Crandall.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. So today's going to be really exciting because we're going to be talking about a lot of cool things kind of revolving around the digital marketing space. And this is a space where we get a lot of our customers from, and a lot of our listeners do the same. So there's a lot of great information that we're going to be able to dive into. And to talk about it, I brought the foremost expert into the call today. So with us today is Sheri Fitts. Now, Sheri actually has more than 25 years of experience in digital leadership and brand marketing. So as the founder of ShoeFitts Marketing, she's helped thousands of advisors and industry influencers convey their messages, create meaningful connections, improve sales performance, and scale their digital leadership. Sheri regularly speaks about digital marketing and social media at the financial services and industry events, has been quoted in numerous publications, and is the author of Deconstructing Digital. She's received awards and recognition from the Plan Sponsor Council of America, the National Association of Government Defined Contribution Administrators, the International Association of Bureaus, Communicators, and Pensions Investments. 401kwire.com named her one of the most influential people in the defined contribution category. So, Sheri, thanks for coming in today. Ty, man, those are some complicated names.
Seriously, Ty. I'm just going to take this intro that you did and I'm going to put on my website.
I mean, like the International Association of Business Communicators and Pensions and Investment, like they have to shorten that at some point, you'd think.
Well, actually, that could be a typo because those are two different things.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It is. I got to put a comma in there. It's probably my fault. I didn't put a comma in there.
It could be me. I could be missing the comma. I'm like, that's the longest name for an association I've ever seen. It's two, so I got it. So see, that's how important commas are.
Commas are important. Well, I'm excited to hang out with you for a while. And I've been doing digital for a really long time. And so for you to say that I'm the foremost expert, thank you very much. And I work to be one page ahead of everybody else. And I think that given how fast everything's moving, no one can really be the foremost expert. But I try to know, and I try to experiment a lot.
That's awesome. Well, that's what it really comes down to. I mean, in your experience, that's what it really is it's trial and error. It's figuring out what works. It's figuring out what doesn't work, right?
Right. And I think the other piece of it is, as it relates to marketing, I think given that the social world is so quick, I believe that a lot of people think that the results from social marketing should be quick. And they're not. So I do experiment with a lot of different things to see how many eyes I can get on posts, what kind of reaction I can get with my email newsletter, what do I need to change? In fact, I just changed my website all around, Ty. Just turned it on 2 days ago, and I'm working on different kinds of call to actions and different things. Marketing's my hobby in addition to my passion, in addition to the way I make money. And so I'm regularly experimenting, and it's fun because it's never stagnant. Never.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We do a lot of Facebook advertising, and it almost requires a full-time person because Facebook just changes so much so quick that it's just nearly impossible to keep up with it all.
And I'll say that as far as I'm concerned, if I was to say where my expertise lies in some cases, I know what I don't know. And I know LinkedIn, and I was an early adopter of LinkedIn because I do tend to sway toward the professional services side of life. So definitely, I would say I understand LinkedIn. It'll be interesting to see how they continue to shift and morph given Microsoft ownership. And then I would say Twitter. And then finally, I would say Facebook. The reason why I would say Facebook is because, again, I tend toward the professional services side of life. To your point, exactly. It's almost like that has to be your full-time job.
Right. Yeah.
Because the interaction, the community, it can work and work really well because the ability that you can use Facebook to target is fantastic. And then you've got to know your stuff or you can end up wasting a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the key. Is when you don't know what you're doing and you're trying to go at this alone, you literally could just spend thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, we had a client like that where they came to us and they said, "Hey, what else should we do?" They literally spent $100,000 on Google pay per click, and
Ooh,
they got what they called no results. And it
ooh.
was a problem where the guy that controlled the money wasn't the guy that was doing the testing, right? So it's like it's a staggering how much money you could waste not knowing what you're doing and get no results.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And the other piece of that puzzle though is that it to my point about experimenting and testing, you don't have to spend that much money to test stuff first.
right.
And I think that that's too bad that they because I did test Google pay-per-clicks. Actually, what I tested was Google re-advertising. And so that means that when somebody comes to your website, you put a cookie on their browser, and then wherever they show up, your ad shows up. I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
absolutely.
looking, I've been looking for a Columbia sportswear coat because I walk a lot and needs to be warm and waterproof and when blah, 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 blah. And now every time, even though I've bought that Durn coat, tested it out this morning, I still keep getting these pictures of coats coming through because that's that whole Google kind of re-advertising kind of thing. And I
Right.
tested that out. But you don't have to, you can lose your shorts or you can be really limited and test stuff out. And it does call for an expert,
Now,
really.
now you refer to something called the mathematics of marketing. So give me some
Hmm.
insight into that.
Well, I do that because I think a lot of people think that marketing in some cases needs to be all creative and woo-woo. And they think that it's kind of overwhelming. And really, when I think about marketing, it is really a game of numbers and momentum and consistency. Creativity is important, but really, more importantly, is consistency. Because that consistency, right, that kind of just like meter, boom, 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 over a long period of time creates an opportunity to kind of do some momentum building or, as I say in the financial services world, kind of like compound interest. What you've done builds on it, builds on it, builds on it. So when I'm talking to audiences about marketing, I try to help them see that that it can be a linear process. Frankly, it should be a linear process, and it doesn't have to be a ton to shift things. It just has to be consistent over time. Look what a little drop of water did to the Grand Canyon, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So so I try to have people understand that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It just needs to be consistent. In fact, I say that the magic of marketing, right, is content, contact, and consistency.
I like that. The three
Yeah.
C's.
Hmm.
Well, you work a lot in marketing. So what are some of the most effective ways that you've seen that, people are using right now to be able to get results?
I'll say the one thing, and I'm sure that everybody's kind of noticed this, is we live in a very visual world now. Very visual. When I look at, like, as an example, do I put a blog post up or do I put an update up with a picture? Which do I do? On the social side, when I do an update with a picture, I get far more interaction and traction than when I just post a blog post. Flip over, though, to my website, and content is critical because Google likes it. And then I use that same content to go out in an email newsletter. And every time I send a newsletter out, I get a response. I think that people forget that email marketing is still very viable. And if done well and not spammy and offer value, email marketing is still one of the best things any organization or business can do to build traction and attention and eventually business.
So when it comes to email marketing, you're kind of referring to like sales funnels, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. I would say, talk about somebody who learned the hard way of dumping a bunch of money. I did dump a bunch of money into some sales automation, so some email automation. If this, then this, if this, then this, if this, then this. What I would say as it relates to that, I got a little overwhelmed with content required for if this, then that, if this, then that, being a sole proprietor, although I do have a team and writers and whatnot, but it really started to chew up my time and energy, and then I stopped doing it. And so it didn't benefit me. So I scaled it back and didn't create any kind of overwhelming sales funnel. I created kind of a little more simplified sales funnel that seems to work for me.
That's great. What about paid ads? What do you think it works well? You mentioned Google. We've talked a little about Facebook. We talked about LinkedIn as well. Where are you seeing a lot of success come with paid advertising?
Well, so the one thing that I say to people as it relates to Facebook is if you're going to get any traction, you're going to have to pay for it. Most people are grumpy that now this platform that used to be free up to 2013, I know it's been 5 years, but still they continue to be grumpy, which is that when Facebook changed their algorithms, now you couldn't get as much traction without paying. That being said, well-placed, well-researched, well-tested ads on Facebook can be very successful. And I think that's the thing that I find fantastic about the world of social. And I'm a consumer of things as well. And the ability for people to be able to target and do some great paid advertisement, I think on Facebook is effective. I will say that I believe that as far as it is in the Twitter, specifically on Twitter, still trying to see how that kind of fleshes out because you can't target as well on Twitter. And flip over onto LinkedIn, I think that LinkedIn, from a professional services side, I don't think people have figured out how to do it yet. So if I were to say where to put my money for paid advertisement, I'd probably do some testing on Facebook for sure. And then I would also do not Google pay-per-click because I feel like you'll have to pay depending on the keywords that you use. Let's just say, financial advisor, window washer, dentist, lawyer, whatever it is in your area. Sometimes there's always somebody with a bigger checkbook than you. However, back to what I was talking about kind of early as it related to Google, that whole Google re-advertising piece might be a less expensive way to go from a paid perspective. So I would totally test out Facebook. I would totally test out Google, but I would also remember back to what I said, visuals tend to get better traction than simply bulleted lists and or a simple call to action.
What about branding? What are some of the mistakes that you see when people are trying to spend money or not even spend money while they're trying to build their brand?
I would say that, so my background, Ty, when I first started in this world many moons ago as a graphic designer. So I tend to come to the world with a visual perspective on things. And also, interestingly, as a graphic designer, one of the best things that ever happened is when you got your brochures, they were printed and you would open up the box and you go, fresh printed stuff. It's crazy. Right? And I think that, in addition to doing ShoeFitts Marketing and doing a ton of speaking, I'm also a chief marketing officer for a firm out of Chicago, Illinois. And they've been killing it. They're fine. They're successful. They got 50 people. They're financial advisors and all that kind of stuff. But they didn't have their business cards, as an example, 1980 paper, 1980 colors. So I think what happens with branding is when people set up their businesses, they go, I need a logo. And then they stop right there. And I believe that branding goes much further, obviously, than a logo. I think it goes into everything that represents your business. I'm a big fan of an online printer called moo.com. The paper that they use for business cards is really substantial and thick and elegant. And so, here's this guy who runs this very successful financial services firm, and he can't believe that when he hands his business card out to people now, they go, wow, I like this card. So I think that branding is much, much, much more than just a logo. And I know that people maybe understand this kind of, maybe not intuitively, but, logically they understand it, but then they don't really stretch it any further than that. And so I'm a fan of getting really clear on what do I want to communicate as a brand, that I'm strong and substantial, or as an example with my materials that I have, I want to break the mold of financial services or marketing speaker looks like and sounds like. And so my brand is a bit different. My logo looks like a Reese's peanut butter cup, not really. Maybe top of a beer bottle, not really. Who knows? So your brand, I think people don't spend enough time going deep with their brand and thinking about how does it touch everything that we do and how do we show up. They
Well,
miss that.
what's some of the keys to do that? I mean, how do you build the real, a powerful brand that from you found from experience?
Well, the one thing I think is that when people start to do their brand, obviously they've got this passion about this organization or this business. And maybe they look around them and go, well, this is how everybody else looks, and I should probably stay a little bit within that group so that I'm not weird or I don't stand out or whatever. I think that Dr. Seuss said something. He said, there's no one youer than you. And I believe that we're in this space of the age of authenticity. And I believe that people's brands need to be truer to who they are and what they believe and what they love and how they take care of the people that they serve. And I think the more that we can get it out of our head from a branding perspective and almost get into our heart, the more unique our brand is going to be and the easier it will be to do the rest of the work. So the reason why I say that is I think standing out is something that in school we got in trouble for, but in business it's a requirement.
Oh,
And you know what I mean? Having
yeah.
enough, so it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to stand out. And I will say, Ty, when I started ShoeFitts Marketing 5 years ago, I had said, when I grow up, I want to be a speaker and do my own thing. It took me until just 2 or 3 days ago to actually turn the on button on for my new website where I am like front and center. I'm not hiding 6 pages back. You land on my site and that's where I am. So it takes a little bit of courage, I would say, too. But you got to kind of get rid of your third grade teacher that's telling you to shut up and sit down in your head, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I get that, and that's hard for people, right? I mean, especially if you're like an introvert, those type of things are difficult to do. So I completely get it. But it sounds like you're talking about the importance of both personal and business. So do you think it's equally important that somebody builds their personal and their business brand?
Yes. I mean, I know I'm supposed to kind of give you a longer answer than that, but yes, I do think that I feel like when I speak and I'm talking about branding, I say it's not business, it's personal. Because remember, for the longest time, it was like, it's not personal, it's just business. No, it's not business, it's personal. I think that, again, back to my idea about the age of authenticity, and in particular, this kind of digital world, businesses have to have a voice. Likely that voice comes from the owner or the CEO. I think people want to see the person behind the curtain.
Right.
So I think both is important. Both is important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's like we've got this society that really likes that now, right? They like to peek into your world, and I think that's why live streaming and video and these things have just taken off the way that they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And back to my point about taking a little bit of courage and chutzpah. Right?
Right.
Because sometimes people are live streaming, I'm like, really? And sometimes, if they're really being true and real, then I'm fine with it. And talk about the fact that it's something that you need to experiment with. It's something you need to experiment with.
What do you think about live streaming? I mean, if somebody really has a purpose behind it, if they're really there doing education training, have you tested that? Have you seen clients test that to see how effective it is? Do you have platforms that you think are better than others?
Back to the point where no one can kind of be an expert on everything, I would say that the one thing that I haven't tested out, Ty, is live streaming, and that's probably because I'm chicken.
Well, I think a lot of people are the same way, though. That's what's astonishing. It's pretty funny because, we have a pretty big following. And when we first started on Periscope, I set up the account 6 months before I had the nerve to go live. And we had like 200 followers without even doing our first stream. It was really astonishing. And then once I got into it, I liked it, even though I didn't think I would. So I am where you are. And to be honest, I think a lot of our listeners are there too, where they're just afraid of just jumping in.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I had a podcast for a really long time as well, and you probably face this. It's the first time that you hit the record button, you're like, holy smokes, here we go. And every time I send out, I've got an email list that's about 7,500 people or so, and every time I send out an email, I'm like, holy smokes, here we go. I mean, it takes a little bit of like, well, I got to be vulnerable. And back to my point, you almost have to like pick your marketing battles. So you have to also, when you think about, are you going to live stream, who's your audience? Where are they? When are they? Where you want them to be? You have to kind of ask all these questions and then figure out, okay, is that going to serve the market that I'm going after? So it may or may not. In my case, again, I have more of an institutional side, a business to business side. And so live streaming, well, it's available on LinkedIn for some folks, and I do have access to doing it. Does it make sense? I don't know yet. I haven't tested it on LinkedIn yet.
Well, no, I agree. I understand you. Once you understand your customer, you figure those things out. Like, Snapchat is the big up and coming platform. That's not for us. It's just not our demographic. And so we don't ever even get in there because it's just not our demographic, and we're not afraid to stay away from it because of that. So I think you're right. I think the better you understand your customer, the easier it is to maybe figure out the right channels to put the advertising or the promotional or the information or the messages to get to them.
And here's the funny thing. So when I work with people, and I still do consults and stuff, but when I work with people and I say, okay, let's talk about your brand. And they always call me up and go, Sheri, I want me some of that social media stuff. And the
Is
next
that what
question,
they say? Literally?
No, not really, but kind of, right? You're like, oh, brother. But then the first question I ask them, Kai, is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, huh? And I'm like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I want to know what their brand is and what that's all about. And then I want to know who their audience is and what their audience needs and what scares them and what makes them happy and what brings them joy and da 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 da. And then 2-3 hours later, we'll talk about social. But not till we get all the other stuff down, because if you don't know all that stuff and you start out there live streaming as an example, to the point about that person who spent oodles of money on Google pay-per-click.
Right.
Is that the right place for your channel? Maybe not. And then what are you going to say? Because you just can't show up and go, pick me, because there are plenty of people out there doing pick me, and they have more money than you.
Right. No, it's very true. It's interesting. I remember when we did the first live stream, I was going to get a whiteboard to do it. Well, the first live I ever did, not the first videos I ever did, were on my son's chalkboard wall. Like, I didn't have a whiteboard, so like he has a chalkboard, a whole wall of chalkboard paint, and that's where I did it, But getting good results is what moved us on. But I've tested LinkedIn ads; it didn't work for us, even though our entire audience is business. So. Right. You're right. I mean, you have to understand the customer. Then you have to know what message you're going to put out there. And then, like you said, it's just about testing the right channels to figure out where your audience is best going to consume your information.
And then keep doing it.
Well, that's real. That is the key, right? I mean, it's a continuity, because I see people abandon live streaming and podcasting and all different types of things, and it's weird because I'm kind of in the opposite world. Like, once I commit, I just do it religiously, and then I don't even realize that people are following, and then I look months later, I'm like, whoa, wow, there's like a lot of downloads or a lot of views, but so many other people just abandon things too quickly.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, as far as podcasting goes, I mean, I put mine on vacation because I, started to do the CMO gig. But they say that, more podcasts end before the 10th episode than, anything else. So pushing through those things and not expecting a return for a long time.
Right.
It's crickets. It's okay.
What about social selling? You refer to this a lot. What do you mean by social selling, and what can people do to do it better?
Well, I think, and let's just kind of talk from a professional services perspective, because I think that's where it works the best. I'll give you an example. I oftentimes get people, in particular, I had someone call me from a financial services organization that oftentimes has their offices in malls across America. And this person called me and wanted to get together for lunch to talk about my business. He didn't even look at my LinkedIn. You want to take an hour of my time? I don't need lunch. I'm perfectly capable of feeding myself lunch, and I'm a busy working person. The last thing I really want to do is get up from my desk and eat lunch. You want to take an hour of my time, but you didn't take 2 minutes to go to my LinkedIn and then go to my website? I'm like, dude, I know more about your firm's 401k offering than you do, because that's what I do. So there's so much out there that you could just spend, right? This is seems like a no-brainer, but people don't do it. You could spend 3 minutes, just Google someone's name and look at the page. Even there's so much information out there. Now, granted, I feel like sometimes they're like people are like, well, maybe they feel like I'm like stalking them. But if they're out there and they offer up information and you don't do your homework, shame on you. Nowadays, shame on you, because other people are.
Right.
So when social selling is really around using the resources at our fingertips and that wonderful little business called Google to just do a little bit of work to check some people out before you call them. The other piece of that, to some of the things we've been talking about, being present in their social channel, depending on whatever channel that is, being present in their social channel over time in a way warms up that call as well.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
So even people seeing your face helps them answer the call.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. We were hunting down to attend an event, for example, and be able to speak at the event. And that's what we did is we followed their group and, we were in there and posting content and sharing and contributing. And when we reached out to them about speaking, they said, oh, we already have you down. You're the one that we were going to reach to. You just saved us the time. So you're so right. Just being active where they can see you really sets that course, because even if they don't remember you, that your name still subconsciously, it seems like, rings in their head.
Yeah, good one. And I think that strategically using groups that way, it's just there's so many places to be able to. Here's the thing though, you were commenting and you were adding value and you were offering up ideas. You weren't just showing up going pick me, and that's the difference, is kind of bringing value to the table.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it makes a bunch of sense. You're talking about a lot of components here, but it sounds like, do you have a formula that you follow? Because, for digital marketing, for example, you're hitting on the right points, right? You have to know who your audience is and the right message. Do you have kind of a formula, or what should people be focused on, no matter what medium they choose, to be able to advertise, market, brand, et cetera, the right way?
Marketing people use this idea of persona, which is really trying to kind of walk in somebody else's shoes. And big brands do this. And I do think that it is a very helpful exercise, which is really, really understanding who your audience is. I don't want to say audience, who your tribe is. Seth Godin talks about tribe a lot. Who your tribe is, what they worry about, beyond what your services are. Beyond that, because they're a whole human being sitting out there, not just somebody constantly worrying about, bookkeeping or whatever it is, right? CPA services or whatever it is. They have a whole life, and really understanding the noise that comes in for them and what they might consume, and really even giving them a name. There's like Sally, stay-at-home mom. And Sally drives, if she's in Portland, right? She drives a Subaru. She has a dog. She might have 2 dogs. Chances are her Subaru's got like a little pod on the top because she lives in Portland and she's a stay-at-home mom and she probably hikes with her kids. And where does she go shop for grocery stores, and why does she go there? And what does she watch on TV? And why does she like it, and what does she not like? So all of those kind of things, the more things that you can really kind of put together on this piece of Sally, if you get that really solid, the rest of the stuff is so much easier. So when I write, because predominantly my audience, so the people that pay me to speak are people like insurance companies or really big broker dealers, or, Charles Schwab is a name that probably people might know. Those are the people that pay me, but the people that are in the audience are financial advisors. They tend to skew male. They tend to skew over 50. They tend to, right now, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world of financial services as far as regulatory stuff is concerned. So they're worried about their book of business and how they're going to evolve. So, I know kind of they tend to wear sports coats but not ties, right? I know a lot of things about them. And when I go to write a blog post, it's easy for me when I'm writing this post to write it. It practically writes itself, because it's just like I'm talking to you. I think about, what are they worried about? What can I offer to help them? I don't try to go overboard with it. But once I have, so my secret weapon for most people is to start to get a personality, a persona of those people, because you can keep it in front of you, and it's amazing how much easier it makes all this stuff. You end up having a relationship with this person, and then it helps kind of sweep the path for everything else that you need to do.
Yeah, it sounds like, the development of a customer avatar becomes really one of the crucial first steps before you think about doing anything else.
Right. And guess what? It's going to change. You're going to learn. You're going to like, they're not paying me. I need to go to George. Right? It's going to change, and that's absolutely okay. Marketing is one big experiment.
What's the key to you think getting engagement? I mean, it's one thing to, put people into an email funnel as we've talked about, or, to, have a social media presence, but it's a whole other to actually get people to engage with you on social media or engage with your emails. So in your experience, what's the key there? What kind of content or what kind of information is it that people are kind of most likely to engage with?
So one thing that I think is interesting is like, as an example, I'll continue to use kind of examples that I know, but the last thing anybody really wants to know is, what is this thing called dollar cost averaging? Like, why would a financial advisor put that up, dollar cost averaging? Nobody stays up at night worrying about dollar cost averaging, although they may stay up at night concerned about how they're going to appropriately teach their kids about money.
Sure.
So by having good content, that's the first thing. The second thing, though, is depending on the platform again, there's nothing wrong with having fun, or there's nothing wrong with asking a question. The issue about engagement, though, is you got to be there. You got to be there. I recently switched around some of my notifications on Twitter because I was like not really paying as much attention to Twitter as I should. And when anybody would ping me or whatever, or tag me on Twitter or respond to me, I wouldn't necessarily know it for a day or two. And now I've got my Twitter notifications changed, and I've got, the new Apple Watch. Well, this is the third one I've had. But now I get a tap, tap when somebody responds to something I posted on Twitter, and I need to immediately engage with them because then other people see it too. So it's a little bit of fun content, questions, and being ready to be responsive to engaging with people when they do engage. And then there's nothing better than tagging people.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of tagging people on LinkedIn.
bringing them into the conversation.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. It really comes down to speed of response. Because if social media really gives you almost a platform to start conversations. But, a conversation where you're putting a question or a comment and it's taking people hours, if not days, to respond, well, then that kind of defies the whole point of the social media.
Exactly. So you got to kind of be ready. Not that hard to even just go, that's hilarious! Exclamation point, emoji, on with it.
What about a tribe? I mean, there's a difference between just putting content out there and actually really starting to build a loyal tribe of followers. You've had to have clients yourself that's done that. So what have you found that's some of the best ways to do that?
Well, I think that the thing, and I'm going to go ahead, and if anybody's not read anything by Seth Godin is like my marketing god. And Seth Godin is all about being extraordinarily true to yourself and focused on your niche. And, if there are broccoli lovers in Southeast Portland and that's your niche, that's your niche. And that's how you can kind of create a tribe. So he says, you can't be all things to everybody, nor should you. And back to this idea of getting clear and getting courageous. And I'll say that in the world of, in my example, in the world of financial services, financial advisors don't want to pick a tribe because they want anybody who's breathing with money.
Sure, as they'll do a lot of business owners, especially
Mm-hmm.
people in the newer stages. I mean, it's scary to just focus on one group, I think, to a lot of people.
Exactly, except for that if you are. Imagine being somebody who knows everything about local grocery stores. Whatever it is that you do, like whatever you provide. But imagine that you are that person in their sphere that knows everything about local grocery stores or let's just say grocery carts. I know that's like kind of ridiculous. But the more that you bring up grocery cart, right? The more that you do it, the more that those people will find you. And so in a way, the more concentrated you become in your niche, the more power you have with your tribe. So It's a challenging thing to have the guts enough to be able to say, I'm just in this niche. As an example, I have a friend who referred me to her cousin who's a lamb farmer down in the Willamette Valley. I love lamb. I love lamb. But I don't know anything about this whole farm to table thing. Now, I trust my marketing gut, and I would certainly sit with them for 4 hours for some really good lamb chops. I'll totally do that in a heartbeat. But it's not where my expertise lies. Or somebody asked me, have you ever done any marketing for a hockey team? If I watch hockey, I have to be with my husband. He's from Chicago. He knows how it works. I just sit there and kind of watch and go, this is amazing. These people can skate backwards and upside down at the same time. Right? And hit the puck in there and how the puck, whatever. So, and I have been pulled away, from my niche, right? But the clearer and more concentrated that I become, it's amazing how much people know my name. Oh, yeah, you're Sheri Fitts. Oh, I know you. I've heard of you before. Oh, yeah. And then the other thing, though, is that what's helped me build a tribe and what I ask other people to do is that think about the particular audience. Where is your tribe? And we're in a world of a voracious content machine. Organizations are starving for content. Associations are starving for content. Once you start creating content, I'm sure you've realized this. I'm sure people ask you, Ty, like once you start creating content, people start knocking on your door saying, can you do that for us?
Right.
Could you write an article for us? That's like free advertising.
Sure.
It's more of your niche. It's more of your tribe. And the more concentrated you are and the more you give to that tribe, the more people will begin to ask you to give. And then it kind of just creates that momentum, that stuff that the more you write, the more you're asked to write. The more you're out there, the more they ask you to participate.
It's really about knowing exactly who your customer is. And once you do so, then you could focus just on that niche group, and then develop messages just for them. And the more you do that, the more in that group you attract people, the more you become well known.
It's a virtuous circle. It is. It's a virtuous circle. Well, I tend to see it that way because, I'm on the left coast in Portland, Oregon, kumbaya type of thing. But it is. It's a virtuous circle.
Sheri, as we get ready to wrap up, what do you think is one of the biggest things being overlooked right now in your space that everybody should jump into? Is it like Bitcoin or is it something else? Or what do you think?
I'm not a big... Okay, first off, remember I'm a marketer, not an investment consultant.
You're not a crypto? You're not a cryptocurrency person?
I'm not a cryptocurrency chick. No, not yet. Although I'm putting together conferences. That's the other thing about my job as a CMO, and I'm putting together conferences and I'll say that I get to pick the speakers, and I'm going to pick two things. One on cryptocurrency, because I think understanding blockchain, understanding it is certainly something that I think every business owner should know. Like it may not be Bitcoin, whatever it is, but this blockchain thing, I'm still trying to get my head around. I want to know how it works, right? It's the ultimate in consumer to consumer marketplace. I mean, it's just really interesting. So one, blockchain, I'm not saying Bitcoin or anything. I'm just saying know what that is, because understand what it's going to do to your market. I saw something the other day, and I've known this, that Amazon is getting into banking. Well, duh. Imagine all the money that's coming in and out of that place. Imagine if Amazon were in your business. So similarly, that's what I'm saying, similarly about this whole blockchain thing, you got to kind of understand, yeah, it might not happen for 10 years or 15 years, but when I'm talking to actually in my role as a financial kind of marketing person or whatever, and trying to help advisors see the future and how to respond to the future, one of the questions I ask them is, what happens if Bitcoin really did take off? How would that change people's retirement savings? Holy smokes. So yeah, that would be my thing about my world is know what blockchain is and imagine if Amazon were in your business. Because then you'll be able to kind of get your head out of the noise, right? And look, sorry, I'm gesturing with my hands and gonging my cute little bell, but you'll be able to kind of look out 15 years from now, because they'll be there. Somebody will. Yeah.
Sheri, what's your best parting advice as we get ready to wrap up?
Oh, golly. Ty, Ty!
Summarize everything you know into 7 words for me, please.
I will say one thing, that as a business owner, as a business doer, as a business beer, one of the best things you can do for yourself is leave space in the day. You got to leave space in the day just for you to kind of like think or not think. And I think that's a hard thing because we're so used to all being busy. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of leaving space in my day. Yeah.
Where can all of our listeners, all the entrepreneurs listening, all the sheep farmers that are in here today, where can everybody
Lamb.
go? Lamb farmers. I've never even heard the term lamb farmer until today, so I have to go Google that now. I have to go Google lamb farmer. So how can we get in touch with you? I mean, because obviously you have a lot of insight into a lot of things. I'm sure a lot of people would like to connect with you to be able to learn more, maybe have you do an analysis of some things they're doing and maybe work with you one-on-one. So where can all of our listeners go to get in touch with you?
So the easiest place to get a hold of me is at ShoeFitts.com. It's like your shoe fits with 2 T's. So shoe, FITTS.com is where you find me. The other thing is I've been at this marketing thing, remember, for a really long time, and I'm proud to say that I own the first 3 pages of my name on Google. So if you just Googled Sheri Fitts, kind of even in any half-word way of spelling that, you'll find me. So I've SHERIFITTS is how you find me. Yeah.
Sheri, thanks for coming on with us today. I had a blast with you, and you shared so much openly. I really appreciate it.
Hi, will you start every podcast for me?
With my long names with no commas in between them, I don't know how that would work.
I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine with it. Thank you so much, Ty. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, everybody, remember, all this information really doesn't mean anything unless you actually take action on it. So make sure you go right now to ShoeFitts.com. That's ShoeFitts.com. Her website's amazing. There's some really, really, really cool things there that I've absolutely loved that you have to see. You really should go there. So make sure you go to ShoeFitts.com, get in touch with Sheri, and see what she can do to help you with your business, because she has a lot of insight. And if you look at some of the things that she's doing out there right now, I'm sure you're going to want to be part. So make sure you go to ShoeFitts.com, ShoeFitts.com right now to learn more about Sheri and get some more tips and tactics on growing your business through many different ways of marketing and branding. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Business Credit and Financing Show with your host, Ty Crandall. Watch for our next episode to get even more insight on financing and growing your business. And don't forget to check us out online at creditsuite.com for even more business growth strategies.